Welcome to Now Let's Talk, the podcast with Vanessa Corwin and Kathleen Kahn, where we speak with our guests about the joys and challenges of life in today's world. Hello, I'm Vanessa Corwin.
And I'm Kathleen Kahn.
Naiah Nikole is a post-op transgender woman, YouTube personality, and online educator. She's here with us today to share her story. Welcome, Naiah. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hi. Hello, Vanessa. And hello, Kat. I want to say thank you so much to inviting me to your show.
It is our pleasure. Let's start from the beginning, Naiah. At what point did you know that you were in the wrong body? And at what stage in your life did you decide to make the transition?
So I was born in Mexico, and at a time when I was growing up, getting bullied for being feminine at a very young age is machismo, for Mexican communities. So being made fun of for acting girly, acting like a little butterfly boy, and I just didn't understand. So it wasn't until I was probably about 7 or 8, I started kind of comprehending that I'm behaving like the little girls and I'm not supposed to. So here I am getting in trouble, and I didn't really realize what any of it was. Even when I was called, joto in, my culture, it's gay. I still didn't realize. So I'm like, I guess I must be gay. And transgender was not a thing. So it wasn't until, I saw a person that cut hair that worked right around the corner. And I was like, oh, what's that? And they were like, oh, that's a transsexual, And I got to know a little bit more about that person. I was like, I identify with that. Like, I want to be like this person. So it took a very long time for me to really realize what transsexual was. And I didn't actually decide to transition until I was about 16, where I really truly knew what transition was.
Can you describe your transition journey? Everybody's going to be very curious. How does it work?
And I understand also that it entails a fair amount of education and counseling and so forth, that whole process.
As a child, as I mentioned, like growing up as a little boy, getting in trouble for acting like a little girl, because I've always had a very high voice and I've just stood a certain way, waved my arms a little swishy swoosh. And, I just acted always very feminine. And in the process of understanding what transgender was and me molding myself into understanding that it's wrong to feel and be who I am, but gay is more accepted from like 5, 6 years old, all the way until 16, it was I'm going to be gay. I'm going to be the femme boy because that's what's accepted of me. So I can't go and tell my mom I'm a transsexual or that's what I want to be. But you can't really speak about it, especially in a Mexican household. So for me, it was a lot of internal battle in understanding and how am I going to fit into society with the pressures of everyone around me, making fun of me, pushing me aside. For me, it was a very scary time to really decide, well, what am I going to do? Run away from my house? And, it so happened that I did leave my house when I was 16 and I had to go off on my own, and that's when I truly began transitioning. And for me, the first step was to make that decision and that commitment to myself to say, you know what, this is how I feel, but this is scary. I might be making a mistake, but this is what I think I want for myself. So here I go, move out of my house. I'm on my own, staying at friends' houses. And one of my friends where I stayed at, they accepted me there because she was trans. So I was accepted into that home. And it became easier for me to be myself. But still, there's this whole confusion in my head. Like, how am I going to go from being this boy to becoming this woman that I want to become? At that time, there was not an example that you could see on TV, on the internet, where it could be like, oh, here's the pathway, here's the book to read. And this is how you know that this is the right path. So, it was very, very hard for me. And it started with just dressing up. It's making the commitment. I was like, all right, that's it. I'm doing it. So I started I bought a wig. It was a cheap, ugly wig, the most ugliest wig that you can imagine. So here I was, put on my wig, would put on makeup, go out in public and be the middle of the ridicule in the middle of public, but I didn't care. Even though I probably looked terrible, I felt the most comfortable that I could. And that was the beginning of my transition. It's really dressing up, putting on makeup, presenting myself in public, even though people were like calling me, oh, look, that's a man. Like from far away, people would just, you could hear it. So after that process of just doing that from 16 all the way to, I think I was like about 18, I reverted myself back because it became to a point where I'm an immigrant. So at the time, my mom brought me here to the United States when I was a baby. And I wasn't born here. I didn't have a green card. I wasn't able to go get a job, go get a driver's license, like all these normal things that normal people do in this country that are just so lucky to be American and being able to have, I feel like so many people don't realize what they have. And for me, it was like, here I was battling with my, what I thought sexuality, with my identity as a person, and also battling like not being able to go get a job and raise money to transition, right?
Did
So
you
I
just
was
say
like,
that you reverted, you went back?
yes. So then I found myself in a very hard place, and I was like, this is not going to work out for me. Like, where am I going to get the money? People aren't accepting me. A man is never going to love me. Like, look at me. I look like a crazy drag mess. Like, this is ugly. Like, no. So I actually started letting my facial hair grow out. I cut all of my beautiful hair that I had taken me year and something months to grow out. And I was like, all right. And I'm about to, like act like a man and be accepted as being gay, like I was just doing that for a while. And guess what? People were still making fun of me. People were still bullying me for being, I don't know if I could say bad words on here, but for being like a faggot, and it was terrible.
It's not in Mexico, it's in the States.
Correct. Yes. I grew up here my whole entire life. I've never left. So yeah, this was happening in California, in a small grape town. I grew up in Dinuba, California, and it's a very small town. It's near Fresno. At the time where I was growing up there was like one Black family living there. Just to give you an idea of like, it was like Latinos picked the fruit that everybody eat. And then there was one Black family and everyone else was rich and white. The only two trans people that probably existed around there was me and my friend. And so here I was, and I was like, I got to move out of this small city. I moved to Fresno, California. I chopped my hair off, grew out my facial hair, practiced my deep voice, practiced not laughing the way that I do, because I'm like, okay, you can't laugh like that because everyone's going to know, like, you're just no. So instead, now I was being called faggot and gay and all this stuff, and queer. And I was like, you know what? I actually don't care, because you calling me that, like, it actually doesn't hurt my feelings because I know I'm not. Right. It hurt my feelings, you calling me a tranny. So, I went into that world of trying to be gay, and I dated, I found a boyfriend, and I dated him for a while. I think we dated for like a year, and I was like, I was about to be 20 years old. So I went from like 19 to 19, like 20s. I don't remember exactly, but it was like a year and something. And I dated this guy. He was a school teacher, and a beautiful relationship that we had, but it became so hard to not be myself that one day, like, I started dressing up while he would go to work. I would be at home by myself. I bought myself another wig, and I bought myself some girl clothes. And whenever he was gone, I would dress up and I would put on my makeup, and I would just be like, oh yeah, like this is my life. And then I'd have to like take it all off. And then I remember he started noticing eyeliner in my eyes. And I was like, oh my God. And he's like,
so
what
he did not accept your journey that you were headed for.
Oh, no. He had no idea. And I was hiding this from him. And I felt so guilty because we had such a beautiful relationship. And for those people who don't know out there, what I look like, I look very, very handsome as a man. Like, I mean, I'm telling you, I would have wanted to date myself. It's just, I was very blessed. That's one thing that I was very blessed with is my looks. I was a handsome man, and now I'm a beautiful woman. And for those of you that, would see me, you would probably be like, wow, I would never guess that you were ever born male,
That's right.
So what happened? You left him, and when did you actually make the decision to transition?
Yeah,
to
so
really transition.
to do the surgery, to really commit to that.
Yeah. So eventually one day he came home and I told him the truth. I was like, that's it. After a year and something months, I said, I said, would you be willing to be with me because I'm going to transition? And he said, no. And it was the most heartbreaking thing because I was like breaking up with him. And at the same time, I'm like not being accepted. So then I picked up and I moved to Sacramento, California. And now here I was 20 years old, and I started living my life full time. I said, this is the time where I don't look back. I need to live my life for me. So at that time, moved to Sacramento. Mind you, I'm doing gigs left and right, go dancing, trying to save money to get my boob job. I need to get my first surgery. And my first surgery was my boobs. I had a big protruding Adam's apple, but I was like, men and women are going to look at these big tits and they're not going to look at my neck. And that was my
don't
first.
have an Adam's apple.
Well, no, I had surgery. So the first surgery was the boobs. I saved myself $3,200. And I was like, okay, I had the last penny. I drove to Orange County, California, and found a surgeon that was doing transgender breasts. So I was like, okay, let's go. Got some big boobs. And then from there, I feel like I really owned who I was becoming, even though you could tell that I was trans, even though that there's tons of things that I feel like you have to grow into. And one of the first ones is that dressing up moment. And then after you start dressing up, then you start really fitting into this woman role, because the first, imagine when you were young girls, when you were able to wear makeup, you were probably wearing mini skirts and wearing wild makeup, and you got to let yourself go and be a girl. I'm trying to have this girlhood when I'm 20 years old. So I look like a prostitute walking the street with red lipstick and a mini skirt. But, so I went from 20 years old to 22. And then I moved to Las Vegas, and I was like, I've outgrew this city. I need to move to Las Vegas and be in a big city. So there in Las Vegas, I started looking for bigger gigs to get jobs, because mind you, I'm still in that position of I don't have a green card. So I start getting gigs left and right, go dancing here and there, working at gay clubs. And this was all like under the table. And I was saving myself money for my surgery, my SRS. And I was also saving money to pay a lawyer to help me with my green card.
What's SRS?
So SRS is a sex reassignment surgery. Yes. So here I was in Las Vegas and saving money. And I'm like, okay, trying to get as many gigs as I could. And I was go dancing here and there. I was like dating men that had money. And I was like, well, would you be able to help me? Like, and doing all of this. And then at the time, for those of you who don't know, there's a very easy way to get money on the internet. And today there is something called OnlyFans. And most men listening to this, y'all probably know what it is. This is typically where a lot of women go on there, and it's pretty much like live porn. And that's what I got myself into. At the time, it was not OnlyFans, it was webcamming. So you would get on the internet and then you would just create a profile, put your pictures up, and somebody would be, looking into transgender women with penises, and I was willing to show mine so I could get rid of it. So that's how I just started making tons of money by all these men who were interested in looking at me with boobs and, but penis on the internet, and them get off on it. So I saved all my money to get my surgery. And this was back in November 26th of 2013. So I got my surgery. I went to Bangkok, Thailand, to go see a doctor called Dr. Chetawed.
Now, how did you find him, and did you do a lot of research?
Oh my gosh, yes. Well, it's like anything, I feel like getting rid of my penis was the most research I had ever done in my entire life, because it could go wrong and it could go tragically wrong. Like, I don't want it to go wrong to the point where I'm not going to be able to pee out of it. So there was a lot of things that I had to think about before I got surgery. And one of the biggest things was, will I be able to have sex again? Will I be able to have an orgasm? Will I be able to even go to the restroom normally? So I did tons of research, but there's not enough research you can do besides knowing somebody that went to a doctor.
Mhm.
So for me, I had another friend that I had met throughout the years that actually was looking to get sex reassignment surgery as well. And she had read about a story of another transgender influencer who was humongous at the time. Her name is Janet Mock. And she had gone to Dr. Chudowitz. She had shared her story publicly. And we're like, let's go to her doctor, I guess. So my best friend went first. And as soon as she got back from that, I feel like it took about a week for me to run to her house and say, open your legs, lay on the bed, show me everything, like, let me see. And I had seen many different real, as many people would say, vaginas, female vaginas. And I was like, oh my gosh, this thing, even though it's like out of surgery, like, this looks pretty close. Like, so then I worked, saved money, and then I went and did mine.
Right. Okay. So you got the money, you went there, you went to Thailand. So take us through the surgery and, what did you do? Pre-surgical, just post-op, immediately post-op recovery. Take us through that.
Did they give you a blow by blow of what they were going to do before they did it? So you knew?
They did give me a rundown of what everything would happen. So after you decide to get surgery, you go reach out the doctor and you have to go through a process, which throughout my journey, there was many times where I did contemplate suicide. And I contemplated suicide because, unfortunately, there was just so much bullying that happened. And there was so many things I was going through, like my immigration status. I'm never going to be able to work and stay in this country. What if I get deported? What if like all these different things on top of the bullying that, for me, it came so close for me to say, like, I don't want to be here anymore. Like, this is just going to be so hard. Like, I just want to give up. So I had to seek out like mental help. Yeah. So I was seeing a psychologist for like months and months, and then eventually went to go see a psychiatrist. And this was before I even decided to get surgeries, because of what was going on in my head,
right?
Of me wanting to end my life. So I had already started that journey, because before surgery, they tell you, right after you reach out to the doctor, they tell you, okay, so do you have your 2 letters from your psychologist or therapist? They're like, yeah, you have to pretty much get approved to get surgery, saying that they clear you, that you're not just making this rash decision and going into surgery because you think that it's going to be a fun thing to do, because you can't just go back. So then at that time I went back and I talked to my therapist and my psychiatrist, and I was like, hey guys, would you guys be able to write me a letter? They charged me money to write me these letters, but they were able to just write them up. I sent them to the surgeon. And then right after that, they were like, okay, it's going to be $22,000. Send it here. That did not include the flight. All total, I believe it was $26,000, something like that. But yeah, they tell you, they give you a whole rundown. They're like, you're going to get to this hotel. You're going to stay there. You're going to, on your second day of being here, you're going to have another appointment with your doctor, and this is how the surgery is going to go. It's about, I don't remember if it was like 6-hour surgery. And then they're going to close you up like this. When you wake up, you're going to feel like this. They're going to give you these kind of medications. And after the 3rd day, you're going to go ahead and get up from the bed and start doing your first steps as a female, and all this stuff. And you're just hearing all of this, and it seems so surreal until you actually just go for surgery. Flew to Thailand, and I went with one of my exes. Terrible idea. Don't do that. Don't ever have an ex take care of you. If you're going to have surgery, don't do that. Take a best friend, because he ended up leaving me over there by myself, and I had to go through this whole journey on my own. And it's a very hard journey to go through, even though you have all this medical support. It's a really hard thing. You're going to cry. You're going to be depressed. You're going to be like, what did I do? And I went into surgery, and when I woke up, sure enough, they said, you're going to wake up and you're going to be throwing up. because of all of the anesthesia. So I woke up, I was throwing up all over the place. I felt like I had a big pamper on, and I remember I didn't feel anything below my waist. And that was because they put an epidural. So I woke up, I didn't feel my legs, and I was like, what if I can't walk again? Now I'm thinking all this other crazy stuff. But sure enough, 3 days later, they're like, all right, honey, time to get up. When I got up, I started feeling that rush of like tingles, that I'm finally getting all that blood flow back there. Oh my God, it was just terrible. But I got up and I was like, okay, like this is like, and they're like, be careful, you have a catheter in there. And I was like, a catheter? Like, oh, okay, I've never had one of those before either. So about 5 days later, they remove your pamper thing, because you're not allowed to look down there, because they're like, the inside of it is all packed with gauze and bunch of stuff, and they keep changing the stuff, but you can't see until they take you to your hotel. They take you to your hotel about like 5 to 7 days later, and you're sitting there in your hotel, and they're like, all right, we're going to come change your dressings every single day, twice a day. And you're like, okay, great. And you're not able to eat normal food because you have this pamper thing. So you have to drink only liquids. But finally, when they were able to take out all the packing, which was like a bunch of gauze inside of your new vagina, they were pulling all the gauze. And I kid you not, I felt like I was a circus act. They were like pulling and pulling and pulling and pulling. Yeah. And I was like, okay, where does it end? And then they're like, okay, great. The nurse is like, we're all done here. You're going to wash yourself with this stuff. And then you're going to do this. And I'm like, okay. And then she brings out this really nice, pretty bag. They make this look so pretty. Like it's going to be so fun. I'm like, what's that? And she's like, oh, these are your dilators. I'm like, dilators? What is that? She's like, well, you're going to have to stretch your new vagina, so it doesn't close up. It's a brand new wound. So you have to keep it open until it heals. Once it heals, then you just have to do it this many times. So she goes, first, you'll start with 3 times a day with this small, skinny, long thing. And it's, if you can imagine just a rod, right? Like an acrylic rod, tall, about 9 inches long. And in diameter, it's probably like 4 inches around, like all the way around. So it's skinny. You get about 5 or 6 of them, and they get thicker and thicker and thicker, and they're all the same length. So she's like, you're going to start with the smallest one, and then you're going to stretch out after a course of 2 weeks. And then after the second week, you should be like much more healed. And then you're going to start with a big, thick one. And she's like, it might hurt. Everything was numb. So that was good.
Oh, that was interesting. So it didn't hurt you when you tried to do that.
It didn't hurt initially until everything starts wearing off. Like all your nerves start like reconnecting in there. And now you're like, okay, I'm starting to feel a lot of pain. Like I'm starting to feel pain here and there. And it was weird spots. So now this surgery, there's many different types of surgeries to get. There's like a penis where they turn it inside out. Many people believe that that's like the only surgery, because that's the way they used to do it in the past. They used to just invert the penis and then just pull it inside. And then that's just your new vagina. This doctor does not do it in that way. This doctor actually takes the scrotal tissues, some tissues from inside of you, and the penis shaft tissues, and reconstructs all of this into a new vagina. And then they give you a clitoris, they give you a clitoris hood, they give you, the labia minora, the labia majora. They give you literally like a female vagina. At least it looks like one. For that first month of healing, you are bleeding a lot. And then after that, it stops bleeding, it heals up. And then you just have to take care of your new vagina by inserting these, dilators at least 3 times a day. This is what they tell you that you should do. For me, I did not have that experience. They tell you that after 3 months, you should be healed enough to have sex. Well, as being an excited new woman, I was like, I have to break this baby in. Let's go. Let's take her for a ride.
Oh, that was before 3 months?
As soon as the 3 months were up, I called my ex that left me stranded over there. Ladies, we are toxic. Like I called the ex and I was like, come and check it out. I mean, you know what it was? The reason why it made me feel comfortable to call him was because I couldn't imagine using it with somebody else. And then being in a position where somebody's going to like not know that I'm trans and then have sex with me and be like, oh, what the hell is this? You know? So I was like, let me just first have sex with him and see if he doesn't break
Mhm.
it or what happens.
So that worked well.
Oh yeah.
Now this is just like one big 6-hour surgery, right? It's just one surgery.
Correct. With this surgeon, Dr. Chetawat, it is only a one-step surgery. Many surgeons do a two-step, and I think that that's probably like a lot to go through. After 3 months, you're completely healed up. And now you just have to worry about dilating it, which for me, like I said, I used my baby right away after 3 months. So then after what happened is I was like, okay, well, let's just keep using it. And then eventually I was dating, boyfriends, and now they were just stretching me out.
Yeah. So do you take any medications, hormones, anything like that?
Great question. So prior to surgery, you're supposed to be on hormones in order to get approved to get the surgery, which is like the huge debate that goes on right now. For me, I just have always been afraid of taking meds because when I was younger and I started my transition, I took illegal street drugs of that like drag queens and other transgender women were giving me that they got from Mexico or from who knows where. They were like, take this. And I ended up taking those drugs and they made me sick. So for me, after that, having that happen to me, I was like, there's no way I'm taking hormones ever in my life. So after I had surgery, I was questioning myself like, okay, now that I really don't develop testosterone and I don't have estrogen because I'm not taking any, like what's going to happen to my health? So I went to go see a regular doctor. I went to go see an endocrinologist and I said, hey, do I need to take hormones or am I going to die? And he's like, well, you look feminine. You don't look like you need to take any hormones if you don't want to. And I was like, but are you sure? And in his opinion, he told me I didn't have to. Now I have a best friend that works in aesthetics and she told me, listen, honey, if you don't take hormones to level out, at least so you can have female hormone levels, then you're gonna get old really fast. Your skin is gonna go bad. Like you're gonna get osteoporosis. And there's so many health issues that go with not having a regular hormone level, whether you're a male or a female. So that's very important. So for me, I do take hormones now, only because of being scared of getting osteoporosis. But if it was up to me, I mean, I wouldn't take anything.
That makes total sense.
Like it just occurred to me, when you want to go to the doctor to make sure the hormone level is good, do you go to a gynecologist?
Oh my God, I love this question. Yeah, so this is so funny because my sister, she, I went to a gynecologist with her because I told her, I was like, hey, can I come to your appointment? And she's like, this was a post having a baby, okay? So they weren't going to check her or anything. It was just more like having a conversation. And I went with her and I asked the gynecologist and I said, hey, can I ask you a question? I know I'm not here as a patient, but I could be your patient. But I'm post-op transgender, and he did not even blink, which normally when I tell people that I'm trans, because I feel like I don't look trans, I don't, people just don't know. And so when I say it and I blur it out, they're just kind of like shocked. But this doctor wasn't. And I was like, so can you see me as your patient? I have a post-op vagina. And if I ever have any issues, could you see me? He's like, of course. But I've never gone to the gynecologist. Never, because I just feel like my vagina is just, it's like a pocket of, skin that goes deep inside and there's nothing going on in there. Like if I keep it clean, then nothing, like I don't need a gynecologist to go in there and look at anything.
That's good, but at least you know one that's willing to see you if you need.
Exactly. I mean, I imagine it must have been quite reassuring.
I mean, yeah, medical care here in the United States for transgender people definitely is getting better. It's getting better, but with laws passing left and right, preventing people from getting the healthcare that they need is very unfair, and it sucks, But I feel like doctors nowadays are getting the training possible or needed for them to treat transgender patients like myself, which is amazing.
Great. That's great. Earlier, when we were talking, you said something to the effect of that it was a physical impossibility for someone to go from male to female. So could you explain what you mean by that?
Yes, of course. So I believe that, and I know that a male could never become a female. Just it's just will never happen. It cannot happen. I'm not a female. I'm a male. Like no matter what, I was born a male. I will die a male. But in my documents, it says female everything. It took me a very long time for me to accept myself for being a male transsexual. Like I am a transsexual. Like transsexuals is a person who gets surgical operations or goes through hormonal changes to actually turn into a woman. When I was transitioning, I was like, I want to be confused as a female. I want to be treated as female. I want no one to know that I'm transsexual. I would be embarrassed if anyone ever found out. So that's the thing is what if the world was a better place for us transsexuals, if we were accepted and we were given our right place in society to say, look at that person is a transsexual, she's beautiful. And if you like to date transsexuals, then great. Many transsexuals do not go around telling people that they're transsexual. And you know what that causes? It causes extreme hardship in our lives, especially in our dating life. Because imagine what happens when a male turns into a female, quote unquote, into a transsexual woman. Now what happens? Nobody knows they're trans. So when they go out in public and they live their life, men are attracted to this person because that is a woman. That is a female, a beautiful, stunning. Transsexuals, most of the time, are gorgeous. Why? Because we will spend all of our time trying to make ourselves appear as feminine, to as beautiful as we can be, so we could be admired for who we want to be. The problem that causes with men is like we meet them, we go on dates with them, and now we're like, okay, at what point is this going to be like 1 minute into the coffee first date to say, oh, by the way, I was born a male? Or like, is this going to be like on date 2, on date 3? Like there's no book. And then now that puts us in a place where if we do go on a date with a guy, or a guy met us with our friends, and we're like, okay, well, the guy's like really crushing on me. And if I tell him now, he's going to beat me up. He's going to think I tricked him into something. And it's a very, very hard place to be. And I think that's where, everyone listening, if you want to make the world a better place, then accept people for what they are and who they are. And you don't have to truly like be okay with the way that other people live, but you just have to be respectful.
You are not a woman, you are a trans woman. And that's how you want to be heard.
Correct.
And you're amazing, you're strong.
It just took a very long time. It took a very long time because I didn't feel like this all the way through my transition. I didn't feel like this until I started dating my husband.
Speaking of your husband, so, okay, you're married. Now,
Yeah.
you guys thinking of having kids?
Yes. So, great question. Yeah. So we actually are in the process of having our son. Me and my husband met back in 2022. And, one of the things that I truly believe that life is full of commitments. And it's all of those small little commitments that you make that make what your life is today. And for me and my husband, when we first met, we went on a date. I didn't tell him that I was trans when I first met him. And I just poured my heart out to him without telling him that I was trans. I was like, listen, I want kids. I can't have my own kids, but I want to go through surrogacy program. And if you can't have kids, then I want to adopt them. So in the process of me dating him, and getting married now, we went through a surrogacy journey. We started back in 2023, like in August of 2023. Like here we are 9 months later, and we are expected to have a child. He's a little boy in January of January 24th, 2025.
Wow. Oh, well, congratulations. That's awesome.
It's
Yeah,
fabulous.
thank you so much. Thank you. It's definitely been a dream come true. It's something that,
Wow.
I didn't think that it's ever going to be possible for me. I didn't think that little boy, that I grew up with and imagining wanting to become a woman, back when I was, 5, 6 years old, getting in trouble for being feminine. I never thought that the life where I'm sitting today is that I would have been given this gift. It's just been so beautiful.
Well, it's interesting that you bring up he's a little boy and you were a little boy. Are you, let's say your little boy or little girl, but you're having a boy, says, Mommy, I don't feel right. And would you give them hormones at that time? I know you feel strongly about this, so tell us.
Yeah, so absolutely. So one of the things is, I first and foremost, I hope that my son is healthy. I hope that, he's healthy mentally as well as physically. And if he's not, then I will accept him. I will love him. However, but one of the things that I don't want, that I wish and I pray upon, is that he does not end up being gay, trans, bi, any of this, because I know this is going to be terrible for a lot of people listening to this, saying like, but why not? Why not be part of the LGBT community and stuff? But because the world that we live in today is so hard, that I don't want my son growing up in a world that we live in today and get bullied. So if my son came, when he's 5 or 6 and said, Mommy, started flailing his arms the way that I was when I was his age, and said, I'm a girl, I would try my best to support him while not completely giving in to the fact that he wants to play with femininity. I would still try to push him into being, a male, and to try to show him boy stuff and take him hunting and be like, Dad, you got to get involved, take him to baseball, like do all these things to see if that could potentially be something that we could draw him away from. Because I don't think that there's anything wrong with exploring your femininity. I don't think that, I'm sure there's many men probably listening to this that there was times in them growing up where they felt a little feminine, and maybe they dressed up a couple of times, and today they might be married to a woman that she doesn't even know that he dressed up when he was younger. He didn't grow up to be a transsexual. It was just a phase in life.
But you're against the hormones in general for children, aren't you?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So yeah, I would let my son dress up and express himself, but I would never give him hormones until he's 18. He can make that decision for himself.
Right. So now, what advice would you give to those out there who are considering transitioning?
My biggest advice is follow the path that feels good to yourself. The first step to transition is making the commitment to transition and saying to yourself, you know what, is this really what I want? And if it's really what you want, the first step is dress up, put on makeup. Don't buy the ugly wig that I bought for myself. Today we have front lace wigs and all these beautiful wigs that you can go buy at the store, save some money. Dress up, go in public and see how you feel. Do that for a year. If after a year of you dressing up and fitting into this role and you're like, okay, yes, I can see myself living through this, then take hormones. Then, then go see a psychologist, a psychiatrist, and then take your hormones. Like, don't just go and be like, this is how I feel right now. And I've been feeling like this for a month or two, or even like 6 months. I'm going to take hormones and I'm going to go get surgery. Like, don't do that, because once you take hormones can do so many things. And one of those things is going to be, you're going to become infertile. And sometimes that's irreversible. That's number one. You're going to get breast tissue that if you go back, you're going to have to need surgery to remove that. And it just causes so many complications. And this goes the same way if you're a female to male. It happens the same way. You're going to take male testosterone, you're going to grow facial hair to get that lasered off or to get that removed. It's going to be such a hard time. So that's why I feel that for kids or even adults transitioning, express your way of feeling by dressing and wearing makeup for a year at least, and then start seeking, a psychologist or a psychiatrist to help you through your journey in taking the right medications, to go to the right doctors, and then slowly incorporate your surgical procedures. Because if you start getting things way too soon, there is a high probability that you'll become a detransitioner.
Well, that is great advice.
Yes, absolutely.
It's not something you do immediately. What you're saying is absolutely correct.
I mean, that's the way that I did it.
Yeah.
And I did it that way because obviously I didn't have all of the resources, but I really truly believe that it was the best thing that happened to me. I think that if I would have had all of the resources that exist today, I would have probably not turned my back, and turned back and turned into a boy still. But this is what's happening today. And this is causing a huge issue with kids wanting to explore their femininity or their masculinity. And then they're giving these hormones. And now parents are finding themselves in legal battles. Their kids are being taken away. Like, it's just such a mess.
Yeah.
So my biggest advice is just don't do it. Don't give your kids any hormones. Let them make this decision when they're 18. But this is not to be confused with don't let your child be who they are. Yes, let them be who they are, because I'm going to tell you one thing. You can try to stop them, and the only thing it's going to cause a wedge between you and your child. And at that point, like, you don't want your child to leave their home like I did, when they're 16, and then end up in really terrible situations that you're not going to be able to protect them.
This is great. So informative. Where can people go to learn more about you? And can you suggest any other resources where people can go to learn more about this whole process?
Yeah, of course. So you guys can go check me out at on YouTube. It's Naiah Nikole. It's NaiahNikole. Naiah Nikole. Or you can go ahead and follow me on Instagram. I'm always open to anyone who has any questions. Send me a message. Find me on Instagram or on YouTube, and I will be your resource. Now, other resources that might be around you, if you were just this lucky person that knows someone that might be feeling trans, or you might be feeling trans, and you somehow are listening to this, go find an ally, whether that's on the internet, as far as someone like me, or find yourself someone somewhere in the internet from the LGBT centers. Usually every single city has an LGBT center, and usually they do like STD testing there and all of that great stuff. There's so much support. Now, in the case that you don't have that kind of support in your small city, then I do urge you to move out because unfortunately, you're going to have to go find these resources in bigger cities. And there's also going to be a higher level of acceptance going into a bigger city where you're going to be able to find that. And transitioning alone is not something that you want to do. You always want to have an ally, whether it's your friends, whether it's the doctor that's treating you, or your medical providers, but you need allies in your transition journey.
Absolutely. We need allies in every aspect of our lives. I think that's so important, that human connection, right? Naiah, thank you so much.
Always welcome. My door is always open. If you guys continue to be curious through this podcast, reach out to me. I would be happy to, clear some answers and help you get through some mental blocks that you might have about transgender people. And just remember that, life is all about the commitments that you make, and those tiny little commitments will become your life. And if you want to be accepted, accept other people, share love. And that's just really all I have to give. I'm sending everyone tons of kisses and hugs.
Thanks for joining us. We'd love to hear from you, so please visit our website at nowletstalkthepodcast.com and send us your comments and questions. We'll see you next time.